address two things. One is this whole idea of peak form. It's not perfect. The guy's form will fluctuate up and down all the time, and usually what ends up happening is that we err on the side of getting them in shape too early, and normally what happens is we get them really, really fit, and then we actually have to bring down the training load, or we have to get them out of shape so that they don't burn themselves out. And that's typically the paradigm. And so we're constantly doing these little mini cycles of improved fitness, and then actually having to hold them back or say, we need to force a rest weeks. And so the training is actually pretty easy. What's harder to do, especially when the athlete's having good form, is to say, it's a little too early for it. We need to hold you back. We need to push you back.
So when you say the training's easy, what do you mean by that?
Meaning it's easy to tell a guy to do 6 hours, get on a scooter, and basically take a bat and beat the guy to death, right? These guys are so motivated that they feel like they need to do the hard training all the time, and it's not hard to prescribe hard training for the guys. And in fact, if anything, if you prescribe really, really hard training and the guys are honest with themselves, they'll go to their limit, and at the end of the day, they'll either be able to accomplish that or they won't be able to accomplish that. And for me, it's okay if an athlete actually goes out one day and tries to do an exceptional ride within bounds, because we know that we can always rest them, right? And that the biggest thing for me is that I see athletes fatigue, I see athletes break down when they don't rest enough, when they don't get good sleep, when they don't get good nutrition, stuff that they do off the bicycles. The training in and of itself can almost be fairly Neanderthal. If it's always hard and it's always long when they go out and they can handle it, then we're probably going to be okay. That being said, we do use statistical limits, and so if a guy is, 2-week average for kilojoules is like 3,000, 4,000 kcals, and their 2 standard deviation mark is 4,500 or 5,000, we won't prescribe them to do more than that. Typically, when they cross that line, things detonate. Another thing that we look out for in terms of that peaking, we use another index that's very similar to how currency is looked at. So like there's the dollar, and then there's the euro, which is 1.3 or whatever it is, and there's the yen, and there are all these currency measures. And in our mind, statistically, currency measures are like fitness measures. One guy might be worth $1, another guy might be worth $1.50, another guy might be worth $2, and that might change over the course of that athlete's career or between athletes. And we derive that index by simply looking at their average power to weight ratio at the end of a ride relative to their heart rate fraction, or the percent heart rate max that they averaged, or their rating of perceived exertion on a 1 to 10 scale. We divide that out as a simple ratio, and the N number ends up being a watt per kg value that should theoretically be what they can hold for 5 or 10 minutes. And so, when our guys talk about fitness, they talk about it as, well, today's ride was a 5.5 or a 5.7, which means that regardless of what they did, their fitness is about 5.7 watts per kg for 10 minutes. Or, by the time the guys are getting close to the tour, they're registering numbers or ratios like 6.5, 6.6. And so the guys know as well, based on that perception, that they're coming up, they're coming down, and as long as things are coming up in a nice, slow and linear fashion, we know we're on track.